Alrighty, it is now 9:30. This is the regular meeting of the Third Laguna Hills Mutual Board of Directors, a California nonprofit mutual benefit corporation. Today is Tuesday, April 19th, 2022, 9:30 in the morning, and we are in the boardroom. So I'll call the meeting to order. We have a quorum present. I would ask Director Jarrett if she would please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. If everybody would please stand. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, we'll acknowledge that the media is most likely present in one form or another, and I'd ask now for approval of the agenda. I'm looking around. I see Donna, Director Rayne Sosak approves. Director Wayne seconds. Any discussion about the agenda? Director Laws.
Yes, President Mutchik, I'd like committee appointments, item 11D on the consent calendar, requesting it be moved to new business so we can discuss it before voting on it.
Okey doke, no problem.
Thank you.
All right, with that adjustment of moving the committee assignments from the consent calendar to new business, it'll become 13C under new business. Okay? Any other suggestions, comments? Hearing none, I will go ahead then and assume that the agenda with that modification is approved by the board. Thank you. All righty, approval of minutes, March 15th, 2022, regular board meeting. Can I get a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve the March 15th.
Okay, a second. I see Director Laws second. All right, any discussion or comments or suggestions related to those minutes? Hearing none, I will go ahead then and assume
One moment.
by Director
I
Bada.
will not vote for it because I was not present.
Okay, so you're abstaining from the vote?
Yes.
Okay. I will then go ahead and assume that with the abstention of Director Bada, that the rest of the board approves of the meeting minutes from March 15th. Hearing no objections, so moved. April 1st, agenda prep meeting. Can I get a motion to approve, please? I see Director Rayne Sosak and I see Director Cook seconds. Thank you. Any comments or adjustments related to those minutes? Hearing none, I will go ahead then also and assume by consent that the agenda prep meeting minutes for April 1st are approved. All right, so done. Report of the chair. All righty, we are now involved in obtaining quotes for the renewal of some of our insurances, most importantly, our property insurance. The past few years, we have seen a tightening of the insurance market and sizable increases in premiums. The landscape over the past year in terms of insurance seems to have stabilized somewhat. It also appears that additional capacity will be available, which is a good thing for us, since it probably means we'll be experiencing somewhat stable prices. Our renewal date for our property insurance is June 1, so next month I should have more specific information about where we stand in terms of premiums for the renewal. Next item, time to talk a little trash. Robert Carroll, the Director of General Services, has been working closely with the folks at CR&R to address outstanding issues for not only residents in Third, but also the other two associations. One issue that is starting to be addressed is the height of the bins. The new bins being used by CR&R are 6 inches higher than the old ones from Waste Management. This has made it difficult for us height-challenged people to lift the top and get the trash into the bin. Mr. Carroll has addressed this issue, and CNR is slowly replacing the taller bins with lower ones to make it easier for residents to dispose of the trash. If you're having a problem with your bin being too high, please let us know. It has been taking about a week to change out a tall bin for a lower bin. But Robert Carroll's been doing an excellent job in responding to the requests from members in this area. And finally, just a reminder, our next town hall will be April 27th from 3 to 5 in the Sequoia Ballroom of Clubhouse 2. We look forward to seeing you there and addressing your questions. All right. VMS Board Update. Director DiLorenzo, please. The floor is yours.
Good morning, Mr. President, Third Board, our VMS staff, and also the residents of Third Mutual who are watching this. Before I begin my presentation, I would like to thank the members of the Third Board for being so dedicated to their work. Unfortunately, some of the other boards do different things, and VMS spends a lot of time with conduct challenges as it relates to our employees. So it has not been a day since I've been on VMS, so this is 3 years, that I have ever been called on because of Third Mutual. So I thank you all for working hard and not taking up time with things that aren't positive for the community. The other thing is I'm glad you mentioned Robert Carroll, because he had a fabulous presentation that it was given to us, or it was sent out to us with the Friday Blast. And I actually, well, there's so many things that you should go through on it, but I actually did buy, I was going to bring one if they got here yet from Amazon, these little trash bags that they tell you that you could use to put, that are okay, to use in the bins, so that if you're against, as I am, because I'm a clean freak, taking little sloppy containers down and throwing them in, it's a great way. So when I get one, I'll show it all to you, but it hasn't come yet, and I keep running down to see if you're there. So it was a great presentation, and I love the energy that people are putting into it. I met a member of Third who lives in a single family home, and he actually walks his trash, his green waste, over to a 3-story building and puts it in theirs because he doesn't have it. So, I mean, he should be the trash man of the month. And I'll mention his name. That's Bill Walsh, and he does a lot for the board. So I was really, really proud of him. So now I will start with the presentation. Thank you. One of the things we did many years ago is, I believe it was done in United. I don't know. I don't think we did it in Third. But when somebody came out to your house, they would leave a little card or give the resident a little card, and they could fill out what they thought of the experience. I don't know, because again, we didn't have it as part of ours. We were looking for something greater when we were on Third. I don't know if because I used to say, well, gosh, if people filled out the card and it wasn't good, they could throw it away. So in any case, we did start in February of this year a work order satisfaction survey. And this after someone has contacted resident services and we've gone to their home to do work. And this work does not include if we put in a water heater or if we are doing fumigation. They are contacted electronically because we have many people's email addresses and ask various questions about the service. And I think it's really good because, as with anything, a survey or an action as it relates to the residents is a living document. So it started in February, and we already, with board input, revised it in March. So we can just keep updating this. Of the 5,300 surveys we sent, 1,283 responses were received. Now, that's not really bad because lots of times people respond only if they're not happy. They don't usually respond. But we're going to work on trying to get that number higher. So that is a 24% response rate. I asked Eileen, who worked with Siobhan, to put this together, and I said, well, couldn't we show the little survey as part of the slides? But supposedly it's very plain. So, but we, again, modified it in March. The scoring scale is 5 being the highest, 1 being the lowest. And if there are any negative comments, or if you don't have a 5, we contact the residents. I come from the hospitality business, and when people would fill out comment cards, if they didn't say it was excellent, we didn't count anything. It was either excellent, and then everything else wasn't excellent, so it wasn't good. So we're more or less going along that line. If they don't give us 4 stars or above, we do contact them. So in any case, we have these wonderful little pie charts coming. And I'm not going to really go over them that much, but the first was, how was your resident services experience? That used to be, and I hope it's getting better, and it will continue to get better, how it was when we contacted resident services. I know that one of the things that we have done tremendously is work on sensitivity training for resident services staff, because you're not just hiring somebody who could answer the phone. You have to hire someone who could answer the phone, who most probably has somebody on the other end who is not happy. Not that we didn't make them happy, but if there's a leak, if your sink isn't working, if your toilet isn't, you're already not happy. So it's a different kind of phone answering that you have to have. And we used to go over that all the time. And obviously we're doing a better job with that. And our human resource department is working on better training for the employees there. But again, with the changes in our lives, with the changes in people who are moving in, and with the updates to our on-site management, we will eventually have it to the point where I don't know if many people will contact resident services or come in. You could do it electronically. So I've been looking forward to that since I moved here 10 years ago. So it's coming. In any case, so the experience, resident services experience was 4.5. The maintenance experience was 4.5. The time to respond was, I'm going very fast with these slides, was 4.46. And the courtesy of the employees, which is very important, was 4.76. And where your expectations met was not 4.5, it was 4.45. So we are trying to work on that. I don't know if a lot of you people notice this, or if, I hope it has happened. More employees than ever before, including the landscape employees, either smile at you or wave at you. And I hope a lot of you are having that experience, because that's very, very, very positive. That is not something that was happening here years ago, and I think it's wonderful. It really is wonderful. So if the employee isn't parked in the right spot, we tend less to feel aggravated if they said good morning to us, and we don't call Siobhan to complain and give her license plate number. So whatever that is, we thank you for the more positive attitude for the employees. And if they don't say hi to you, maybe we should say hi to them. Most of them want to talk to me about my dog, so it's I could understand it. In any case, some of the things though, and this is the last slide of this part, because we talk to the residents who have not given us a 4 or above, the areas that they commented on is areas should have been washed down to remove dirt. I could see that. I would say that. You didn't clean up enough. We're very happy about the service. The person was very polite. Oh, we should have less paperwork. Well, I could go for that, because we really should. And we're going to work on having a picture. So our goal is to have more responses at the 4.5, close to 5 area. And our goal is also to get more people to respond to this. So I know that we will be working, I know Siobhan will be working with the communication department. You know, maybe we should do the card too. I don't know, but we want to get more responses. So we're very proud of that. Another important thing that VMS did on March 22nd is we have the strategic planning meeting. The overall response from the directors, that is the directors who are on the boards and the directors who had run the departments, was very positive. I myself wish that we could have had it in person. I know a lot of you do, but unfortunately the person who we used, you know, was still plagued by COVID, so hopefully we could have it again, and we will be in person. But a lot of work was put into it. The number of comments that were received on this SWOT analysis, and a SWOT analysis is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and how they might impact the village. And threats are not personal threats, but they could be the economy, they could be the fires, it could be global warming. So people, the list was incredible. And a lot of things were so closely aligned. You'd think that we all sat down I don't drink beer, but sat down and had a glass of wine and did this together because so many of us had the same comments. So we went through all of the comments and we broke up into groups and we reviewed them and we came up with 3-year goals and we have new 6-month goals. As VMS is always trying to keep the community up to date, we have a wonderful article on In the Coming Breeze about this strategic planning by one of our board members who, thank God, loves to write. So you should all have one of them on your board, and that's Norm Kahn. So he wrote the article, and you'll be seeing it in our next analysis. So one of the, I'm going to go to this other page, the SWOT analysis did say that our strengths are the strongest management team ever. And I really believe that with the addition, and I know Siobhan has one more new department head to introduce today, but with promoting people from within, which we have done in quite a number of areas, and much better recruiting, that when we are recruiting a department head, the boards are involved. At least 2 board members from each board, as well as VMS board members, as well as staff, interview potential candidates. So, and the new person that Siobhan will introduce went through this experience, as did Robert Carroll. And we really feel, I mean, I was really impressed with the people who we have on staff now. So I really believe that with the positive energy that we have from the group, we are going to move VMS further along in our goal to improve service, because really that is our product. We don't have cups and saucers that we sell or nuts and bolts. We're service. I ran contract management for 15 years in my former life. And what you do is we're contracted to provide service, and that is our goal. Our biggest thing for the strategic plan is our 3-year goal. And for that, we want to attract, develop, retain high-quality staff. We want to work with the boards to maintain fiscal stability, village longevity. We want to provide excellent customer service, so we're always looking at you and to you, the board members, for your ideas and comments, because that is what makes us get better. Even if the comments might not be positive, we'll take it to a positive slant. And we want to facilitate operational excellence. So there are just 2 other things that I want to go over, and I don't have to go over the 6-month objectives, because how many times could I talk about this? We have started 2 new things. One of them was last year, where we have a client relations meeting, and this is every other month. And all of the boards, this board, are invited to, the president, of course, is always invited, and he or she is asked to bring a number of board members. And this last presentation was astounding. It was, if I say his name wrong, correct me, Bart Medea, right? Right, is that?
Bart Mejia?
Mejia, all right, see? You know I would say it wrong. He did a presentation on energy that was so outstanding that for any of the board members who were on the energy committees of the past here or in other places, it was incredible. So I don't know how we're sharing the information with the board members, but it was just absolutely outstanding. So this client relations meeting, we asked the board members, the board presidents, vice presidents, members of the board, to give us topics that they would want to cover. I, of course, always want to cover manor alterations and damage restoration, but I know we're going to give updates on that all the time. And in addition to us doing that, which is a new thing, which is very positive, we have told Siobhan, well, we really like that the department heads all come once a month to give us a presentation on their department, but we want to ask you questions before time so that you could come in with that information. We don't want to drive you crazy after your presentation. So I really believe that was once a dog and pony show, and we've all done those when we go out to sell. We don't need them to sell us on what they do. We want them to tell us what they do, and telling us what they do is things that concern us, because we want to know what concerns us. And when I say us, I talk about the community, because we're here to serve the community. So last month's presentation on security was outstanding. When Kurt did a presentation on landscape, we kept him in there for like 3 hours, but it was all very, very positive. What's our next topic?
Human resources and workers' compensation.
Okay, so that I asked the boards, if you have any questions on human resources, what's happening, how are we taking better care of the employees, whatever you think about, that you let Siobhan know, because we will give these to the department head ahead of time. So I know I've handed in questions, so I encourage you to do that. At this point, I will remind you that our contact information, you can contact Resident Services, you could contact Info Laguna Woods Village, or you could contact any one of your board members. I remember how many contacts we would get when we were on the boards, but it's a wonderful way to deal with our guests. I thank you all, our residents, why do I say guests? I thank you all very much for this opportunity and have a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosemarie. Very, very informative presentation. Any of the directors have any questions for Rosemarie? Mark Laws?
I have a question. I don't know if it's for Rosemarie, but are the VMS board meetings on Granicus that we can review? I couldn't find them last week.
They are on Zoom.
Zoom? Okay.
Yes, so we can we send out the links every meeting, but we'll make.
Okay, I'll look those up. Thanks.
All righty.
Question.
Director Bada?
Yes, sir. What time is this strategy planning meeting? And are we invited to go for that?
Say that again?
What time is the strategy planning meeting on the 22nd? And are we invited to go for that?
It was the 22nd,
The March 22nd? At
because
what
this
time?
is April.
It was last month.
Oh, shoot.
Are you,
Okay.
I think Kush is still traveling in India.
I'm on vacation.
Yeah, still,
Thank
so
you.
welcome back.
So do we
But-
have any notes on that?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Siobhan will answer, but yes.
Okay.
We
thank
sent it to all the board members last week. If you didn't receive it, please let me know, and we'll
Yes,
send it
please,
again.
yes. I think I'm having some trouble with the email addresses here. So I'll confirm that. Thank you.
Okay. All righty. Moving on to our open forum. Oh, I'm sorry, Director Franco.
I'd like to comment on a service that I had from VMS that was really, really, really positive. And we had a blockage in our kitchen sink. There are two sinks there. So in comes the plumber that day that we called, and he saw that running one sink caused the water to come up on the other. So he puts a blockage on that sink, runs the garbage disposal, and that clears up the blockage, because the block causes no air to go down the second sink, and so therefore the garbage disposal cleared the blockage. It took him about 15 minutes. And so simple. I just was really impressed.
Thank you, John. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All righty, moving on. Next item on the agenda is the open forum. At this time, members of the may only address the Board of Directors regarding items not on the agenda and within the jurisdiction of this Board of Directors. The board reserves the right to limit the total amount of time allotted to the open forum to 30 minutes. Each member may speak only once during the forum. Speakers may not give their time to other people. No audio or video recording by attendees, and no rude or threatening comments. Members can attend the meeting by joining the Zoom link, the zoom.us/J/94899806-730, or call 1-669-900-6833, or email meeting@vmsinc.org to have your message read during the open forum. So, Michelle, our first speaker.
June Gilmore, Manor 5176.
I'd like to ask to everybody here, And then it's, I hope it's video. It's, your house, this is, I got a 3 fact. Your house foundation concrete falling off like this. I have falling like still falling off. How about your house like this? How about you feeling? And then after little while, that United have same kind of, this kind of situation. They are moving in, just move in, new people, new person is there, $20,000 damage on. Someday, because I'm not native person, so they want to pay the bill to us. So, this is, I show you, still falling down. I've been 2 years, I tell them. Now, another 2-3 months, I am waiting. Now 1 month. And then landscape is together. Their foundation, look at the foundation is a whole, foundation dirty is different than they digging out and then soft dirty is put in my side. So why is a problem? And then I got a, they called one felon $40,000 behind the HOA.
Miss
No,
Gilmore,
I'm
you
not
cannot
talking
speak.
about, I'm
You
not
cannot
talking
speak
about
about other
my
members.
neighbor.
You cannot
No.
speak about other.
So why you
Ms. Gilmore, you cannot speak about other
okay.
members, please.
So why you sex offender is this many? This is under the 55 BMS. You did not work in diligence. How many? I'm not even completely digging out. Is so many, 100 people is you felon and sex offender living here? And then, like this, under the table money, what? And then I complain, who's these strange people? They send me, bugging me, 3 cars in the, now anymore. Not these people take picture, young people. Even my lawyer said that.
Ms. Gilmore,
This is
Ms.
a
Gilmore,
83-year-old
Ms. Gilmore,
send them here.
Ms. Gilmore,
Okay,
thank you.
yes,
Your
thank
time is up, thank you.
Okay, another one.
Ms. Gilmore, your time is up, thank you.
And
Ms. Gilmore,
members
Ms. Gilmore,
is working
Ms. Gilmore,
for people.
thank you.
Next member,
One piece.
Jules Zellon, Manor 3124A.
What was the letter for that manor?
Excuse me?
The address of the manor?
Address of what manor?
Jules
Now,
Zellon,
3124A,
A.
as in apple?
Good morning. I have 2 brief comments. First, there should be some minimal health protocols in place for the candidate forum this coming Friday. One candidate, Karen Shore, is completely unvaccinated. My wife is immune compromised and has had several serious health issues the past year. 2 of my friends from right here in Laguna Woods Village have died of COVID in the past year. The last candidate forum that took place was right in this room and had all of these panels in place. The least the candidates should be entitled to is the same level of protection. Next, this is the last board meeting before the voting begins on the recall. So I'm here to urge everyone looking in to vote. If you vote for the recall, that's great. If you're against the recall, then you should vote against it. But I urge you, the point I want to make is that it's really important for us to vote at all the time. In the past 2 years, we spent a ton of money voting on 2 CCNRs, and both of them lost. They both lost for the same reason: there were not enough members voting. You see, in order to amend our CCNRs, we need 3,152 votes in favor of the amendment. We rarely get 3,000 votes in total. And that spells trouble, because we're being ruled from the grave, ruled by a document that was written when faxes were the new technology. Our current CCNRs were last amended in the 80s, and reading it would give an English teacher an ulcer. It's so badly written that the prominent use of the name of the law firm on the title page could almost be considered a defamation. It's just terrible, but we'll be governed by that ancient document until we wake up and start voting in earnest, regularly, religiously. Because someday something really important is going to come along that requires a CCNR amendment, as opposed to that expensive and unnecessary thing we went through 2 years ago. And if we haven't established a habit of voting, we're all going to be up the creek. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Brian Gilmore, Manor 5176.
Thank you. Last month, I mentioned strange cars pulling up in front of our house, taking pictures. Actually, one of those people was contacted by security, and they came to our house. And we got a picture of her, too. Now, I can show these to you. I don't know if you want them showing on camera, though. But they're different people. Outside people have told us, yeah, they agree, they're different people. So I know there's a camera on. I don't know if we want to show them. And out of their privacy, I'm not going to do that. But I don't know what's up. And, you know, my wife is very concerned about this. She's trying to get a book written about judicial corruption. Draft was due end of this month. She's not been able to do that with all the harassment going on. That's one thing. Second thing is, I'm asking board members, you know, just remember who you work for. You work for the people. I'm sure many of you agree with that intellectually, but, you know, you got to carry through that on your actions, and I'm sure you will. And you know, treat all people the same. There was a situation at the last town hall where someone was not given the microphone. Everyone else in the room was given the microphone except for this one person. And that hurt her feelings. I'll just let that one sit there for a minute. That hurt her feelings. When you treat people differently, they begin to feel like they're ostracized, not included, and it's not really a diverse community. Okay, so I'm just going to let that one sink in for a minute, because that is not cool. Or as they might say today, awesome. The other aspect, just briefly, and she touched on this, I was astonished with the number of sexual offenders we have in the community. Yeah, I mean, most of them are felons. You know, I'm keeping a list how many felons we have in the community. Now, the thing amazing about this is that 25% are less than 55. So, you know, I've been asking people, how does this happen? And they don't understand. You know, so I just want to make you aware of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Next, we have an email from Gail Lewis, Manor 3449A, Bahia Blanca. Dear board members, concerning an email blast of April 6, 2022, the first sentence states, on behalf of the third board of directors, did this board approve the content of this email? Were any of the board members aware that was going to send this email in their name? If not, why is allowed to use the board's name without prior approval? Another question is why it's allowed to use the Third Laguna Hills Mutual heading for political campaigning. Who approved this? And in all fairness, shouldn't the other side vote yes on the recall, be allowed the same time for political campaigning? Lastly, what totally horrifies me is really chastising and bullying a well-respected resident, tarnishing the reputation because he disagrees with statements posted on Nextdoor. Page 33 of the Board of Directors 2022 Handbook states, directors must endeavor to conduct themselves with courtesy toward each other, management, employees, committee members, vendors, contractors, service providers, mutual members, and residents of the mutual's development. Violated this policy. The handbook states the disciplinary measures for such a violation are 1, censure, 2, removal as an officer of the board, 3, recall by the membership, 4, legal action. The board of directors must take action. Clear violation of policy or this board will be remiss in their duties. Gail Lewis.
Thank you, President Muchnick. Honorable members of the board, I have 3 items this morning. The first thing I would like to do is introduce our new security director. Eric Nunez joined us last week as the replacement for Carlos Rojas, who is now serving as Director of Operations in the CEO's office. Eric brings 30-plus years of public safety experience to the village. He has served as the Chief of Police in Los Alamitos and in La Palma, both for 6 years. He's familiar with quality of life issues as they relate to public safety, including code enforcement, traffic safety, neighbor disputes, social services issues, and so forth. During his career, he's built a level of trust and great partnership with the Orange County Sheriff's Department that will serve him well in his new role. In La Palma, Eric served as the Emergency Services Coordinator and coordinated the Community Engagement Response Team, a cadre of volunteers who helped during disasters. Eric holds a BS in Public Administration from the University of La Verne, an Executive Master of Leadership from USC. He teaches criminal justice at Cal State Long Beach and is the past president of the California Police Chiefs Association and the Orange County Police Chiefs and Sheriffs Association. I'm hoping you will help me welcome Eric to the village, and I'd encourage Eric to come up and please say a few words. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President, Chair, and the board members. Appreciate the work that you do. I've been to one of these, and I've been through a number of committees since I've been here. This past week was just incredible. It's like drinking from a fire hydrant with the amount of information and the activity that goes on. And all of that is to serve to the residents that live here. And just wonderful amount of work with all of the directors that I work with and managers that are doing the job that they do. So I feel really privileged and fortunate to be here and be able to contribute in my way with the security. There are a lot of things that we're looking at there, and I'll tell you, we got a fine group working across the street over there, and I just really appreciate this opportunity. And if I was going to say, don't hesitate. And I know that I got an email from our president here just this morning or last night, and it was. I like that. I like the fact that we can directly reach out, and if you have a concern, a question, or an issue, please do not hesitate. Very responsive. The 2 cities that Siobhan had mentioned have very low crime rates, and as a result, we spent a lot of time dealing with quality of life issues and try to respond as quickly as possible to whatever the inquiries are and concerns. So, like I said, I bring that here and look forward to working with each and every one of you, and I appreciate being here. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
I
Eric.
sat on the search committee and interviewed the different candidates, and we had a great slate of candidates. And Director Nunez, actually formerly Chief Nunez, and now Director, rose to the top and is just, he was really an outstanding choice by the committee. So thank you.
Thank you. And now I'd like to ask Catherine Lassiter to please provide a brief update on the Meet the Candidates event.
Good morning. My name is Catherine Laster. I'm the Services Manager in the CEO's office, and I've been asked to give an overview of the Meet the Candidates Forum. So Third Mutual is having a Meet the Candidates Forum this Friday, April 22nd, at Clubhouse 7 at 10 a.m. The meeting will be guided by a moderator. Her name is Cindy Whitney. She's a resident of United Mutual. So the moderator will introduce herself and the candidates, and then she will ask the candidates for a 3-minute opening statement. After the opening statements are done, each candidate will receive 7 identical questions to answer. The candidates will have a 2-minute opportunity to respond to each of those questions. If time permits, question cards from residents in the audience will be read by the moderator. Those question cards will be sorted and grouped together and presented as one, if there's multiple questions on the same thing, as one question, and it would be presented to each of the candidates, and they will have 2 minutes to answer those questions. The forum will conclude with a 2-minute closing statement by each candidate, and those closing statements will start about 11:50 a.m. The end of the forum is scheduled for 12 noon. At the end of the forum, each of the candidates hopefully can make themselves available for any attendees to ask any additional questions they may have and get that personal attention to the residents that have attended. So that's the overview of the candidate forum. If anyone has any questions, I'll be happy to take them now.
Director Laws.
Thank you, Ms. Lester. I have a few questions. One, were any current third board members involved in this setting up of this forum?
No, staff and the Inspector of Elections set up everything.
Great, thank you. The 7 prepared questions, how were they chosen?
Those questions are from previous Meet the Candidates forums, from previous boards, from multiple years.
Okay, were they chosen at random, or did somebody like yourself pick them?
No, I just took an old Meet the Candidates forum questions from a previous year's Meet the Candidate and used the exact same question.
Okay, fair enough. And then I think you answered this, but I'm just going to ask for clarification. Can a member who submits his own question, can he direct that question to a specific candidate?
No. All the questions will be read by the moderator, and she will read as many questions as she can before the 10-minute section where they have to do their closing statements.
Right, but again, my understanding is that all 4 candidates will answer each member-submitted question. Is that correct?
If we have time, but yes, that question will go to each of the candidates.
Got it. Thank you. Thanks. That were my questions. Thanks.
All right. Director Cook.
One question, will this be broadcast on one of the media, like Zoom or one of those?
No, it will not.
And why is that? Because so much of the community now looks at these meetings and everything from their home. Was there a reason why that isn't being done?
This recall election was a unbudgeted, unplanned event. What we did, we tried to coordinate it and get everything put together as quickly as possible. At this stage, we do not have the capacity to have Village TV do the forum live for us, or we didn't budget it to be a live forum or to be recorded. So at this time, we just have to be in person for this event.
That seems highly irregular compared to all of our other meetings. it doesn't seem like that should be the case. My opinion is we should find some way to fund it and some way to broadcast it for the community.
It was previously mentioned that VMS meetings were on Zoom. Zoom seems to be something fairly simple, at least for me and one other person, to set up. Maybe that is an option. So I'm just throwing that out there.
We can take.
I can check into that.
Okay. Director Lewis?
Yeah, and if that can't be done, at least a cell phone or two recording it, posted on YouTube would be an alternative.
As Ms. Laster said, we'll take a look and see what is possible.
Okay. Any other questions for Director Lassiter? Catherine, thank you very much for that. Okay.
You're welcome.
And then I just wanted to remind everyone that this Saturday at 10 a.m. is the Health and Wellness Expo at Clubhouse 5. Doctors and nurses will be available to discuss medical advances in various specialties. There will be information booths, lectures, and more. Also, there will be complimentary food, fresh juice shots, and giveaways while supplies last. So just wanted to remind everybody that that is this Saturday. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Laws?
I just had a question on the recall. So if the recall is successful, 2 seats, board seats will open up, one that expires at the end of this year, one that expires at the end of next year. How will it be determined which of the 2 candidates fills which seat? Have we figured that out?
I wish you would have asked that when Ms. Laster was here.
Sorry.
We'll provide the answer
Okay.
at closed session. Thank you.
Sorry. I thought she was the candidates forum versus the recall of persons. Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes the CEO report. Any other questions for the CEO? Hearing none, we'll move on to the consent calendar. All matters.
I think I can answer Mark's question. And I was already told by Catherine that the person who gets the largest number of votes will get the longest term. And
Thank you.
so,
All right, consent calendar. All matters listed on the consent calendar are recommended for action by committees and will be enacted by the board by one motion. We have removed the item D from the consent calendar, so we're looking at items A, B, C, and E on the consent calendar. Can I get a motion to approve the consent calendar? Director Jarrett moves.
I move.
Second, I see Director Laws seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead then and consider that item 11A, B, C, and E are approved as part of the consent calendar, unless I hear otherwise. Not hearing otherwise, those items are approved. Unfinished business, we have none. We'll now go down to item 13, new business, discussion and consider resident suggestion program. Director Laws.
So when I joined the board back in October, one of the future agenda items on my first board meeting was resident suggestion program, and it was as a future agenda item every board meeting thereafter. And recently I asked, when can we move it up and talk about it in one of these meetings? And during the agenda preparation meeting, it seemed like none of the board members really had an idea of what it was, and maybe even suggested, let's just removing it all from the agenda altogether. And I thought, well, I'll bring it up. I think we have a vast wealth of knowledge and experience in our community that I don't believe we ask enough for their suggestions about how we can improve things. So that's kind of a statement. Now, that said, many questions come up. How would we ask for their input? I think that's probably something that we can resolve fairly easily. Suggestion box, some email address, but I think more difficult would be what we do with those suggestions. How would we handle them? And I don't really have any answers. So, as I was kind of preparing for this, I said I'd bring it up, but I don't have any answers. And I don't know if there's an appropriate committee to look into this a little further. That's all I've really got to say about it.
Okay, may I suggest, Director Laws, that we ask the Communications Committee to take a look at this particular issue?
Sounds great.
Okay, then we'll ask Chair McCary, would you please consider that as part of your agenda to? Thank you.
And I'm on that committee, so it works out fine.
Oh,
Thank you.
okay, I just noticed that. All right. 2023 budget discussion. We were expecting an oral discussion from Jose Campos, who is the Assistant Director of Financial Services. Mr. Campos, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to put on the screen here our calendar. I just want to walk you through the budget process and as far as what we're looking at. I like to begin with the end in sight, right? And per civil code, we need to inform our members if there's going to be any changes in their upcoming assessment. Specifically, we need to let them know in writing, no less than 30 days and no more than 90 days. So basically, we're talking either October or November, we need to distribute certain disclosures and let them know what's going on as far as business plans are concerned. So to that end, how do we get there? Right? So the way we get there is we start planning now. So on their screens here, and actually I have some hard copies if you're interested, are the schedules of what we do as a board, as staff, and as everyone knows, to be able to make sure that we're able to provide these disclosures. So what we did is we've already begun by having department workshops. We've held those in March, where we had each of the department heads come through and let the boards know what the existing service levels are, and also to gain a little bit of input as far as what you're wanting to see for your 2023 business plans. Currently, staff is taking all those recommendations and inputting proposals as far as what's going to go into the 2023 business plan. And so, we're going to take all those numbers, we're going to compile them, we're going to put them before our CEO, who's going to review them and sharpen her pencil and let us know how much more to add. No, we're to make sure that we have all the different service levels that you need for you in 2023. Once we have that, we'll go through and we'll recalculate the budget. And at that point, we're going to start showing it to the boards in a little bit more details. Specifically, you can see on our screens here, the first week of June is when we'll have our landscape and maintenance reviews. And that's where we're going to go program by program, giving you some history, specifically 3 years worth of history, as well as last year's budget and the proposed budget. That way we can line by line go through each of the different departments and each of the different programs as far as what they do. We then take any input that the board may have. By the way, all these meetings are open board meetings, so anyone can attend. We welcome membership to attend. We welcome the board's direction, and we welcome direction as far as what to do. We'll take the input from here, and we'll generate a budget in its entirety, and that will be presented at the July meeting. At that point, you'll be able to see for the first time what the proposed per man or per month is, because that's the number one question that we often get, right? How much is my assessment going to change? So you'll be able to see that at the July meeting. And again, we'll bring it forth before the board. We'll talk about each of the departments and get your input. At that point, hopefully we're rounding third and getting close to a complete budget. And we'll go back and recalculate everything and then present it at a televised meeting. That televised meeting is scheduled to be held August 12th. And again, that's just for the general information of the membership, where we'll go through each of the items contained in your business plan. And assuming everything goes well, or even if there are any top-level changes, we'll make those and present them to you again at your September board meeting for your ratification and for your adoption, so we can, again, meet the civil code and get the members all the written documentation and disclosures that they need. So that's the general overview as far as the business plan. As you can see, it takes many months of planning, many people and many iterations, but at all points, your input is welcome, the members' input is welcome, and we do this as transparently as possible.
Thank you. Thanks for that overview. I hadn't heard it quite like that before, so I appreciate that. During the workshops in late March, you mentioned that we have these meetings and input was received. I was at the ones for third, and I don't remember much input being received back to staff. For instance, there was a slide, I think on both the landscape and M&C decks, talked about future considerations for next year. And then there were some things like pressure valves, but I didn't recall anything where somebody said, yeah, include that in the budget or don't include that. So I'm unclear as to what assumptions the staff is working on to create these new budgets. Do they have direction? Or, I'm used to in the business world where senior management says, hey, you guys did a great job this year, do the same next year, but by the way, do it with 5% less budget. Are you getting any direction like that?
We haven't, and the standard operating procedure here is unless we hear differently, we will maintain the same level of service that is in the existing year. If there's anything different or any changes to that, again, we welcome that direction, but we have not yet received any change.
Okay, thanks. So specifically in the landscaping area, it's unclear to me what the level of service is. I mean, I know there's mow, I know there's blow, I know there's shrub work period, but I don't know how often they mow. I don't know if they mowed, if they added a day to the cycle, so rather than mowing every 5 days as they tend to do in the summer, at least in my unit, if they mowed every 6 days, would that really matter? Is that what you call a level of service, is 5 days versus 6? I'm struggling with what we're going to see on June that we're going to be able to respond to in an effective way.
Thank you. Yes, you will be presented not only numbers on a spreadsheet to let you know what's included in all of your different programs, but you'll also be given a little write-up as far as what that actually means. Number of times, what they're going to cover. For example, in the landscape, how many cycles is a big deal for them, but they'll be able to, that's their department, right? So they have more detail on it. They'll come through and actually explain each of those things, both verbally and in writing. You'll be able to have that write-up, and it'll be available to all.
Okay. I actually watched the landscape meeting for June for last year for the 2022 budget. And again, it mentioned, hey, our goal is 4 cycles, but I don't know when those cycles are. I'm worried that the questions I'm going to ask at the June meeting, I would like to ask in advance so that they're there for the June meeting. Is there a way that I can do that? That's more my concern, because it was very high level. Hey, here's how much it's going to cost for irrigation. We have 17 staff, and they do such and such a thing. Do we need 17 staff? I don't know. I'd be interested in what makes you think you need 17. Can you live with 16? Why not 18? What is the detail behind that, so that we as a board can say, yeah, that really makes sense. We need to do that. We're going to have trash is more expensive this year than we were expecting. We've deferred a couple $1 million worth of maintenance and construction things. So how can we save so that we're not really increasing our fees for next year is really where I'm coming from. So that's what I'm struggling with. These meetings, I was expecting an all-day meeting at the end of June, and it's like, it looks like it's an hour and a half or 2 hours or something according to the team up schedule. So yeah, I was going to get into everything during that meeting. So sorry, I'll stop talking now.
Okay, Director Lewis.
With regards to all the spreadsheets you're going to be handing out for the different departments, when are they going to be available? Is it the morning of, the week before, the month before?
It'll be a week before.
Week before, okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Director, see you.
We're always open to guidance on what you would like to see during those meetings. So if you would submit those just via email to Jose and myself, we'll make sure we do our best to anticipate those questions in our presentations.
Okay. Right. Would you like me to somehow get?
I would ask whatever questions you submit them also to the whole board, so the whole board is aware of what's being asked.
Would you, whole board, like to see them before I submit them to Jose, and or is this at the same time acceptable to you?
No, I think you have the right to submit whatever you want,
okay.
And just as long as you share that information
okay.
with the board.
Most definitely.
So the board is aware. Whether they agree or disagree with you will come out in the wash when the discussion takes place.
Okay. Thank you, Siobhan and Jose.
Director
Appreciate that.
Our objection, our objective is to provide a most meaningful meeting to you as possible. So if there are specific questions that you have, please let us know. That way we can use the time most efficiently. It becomes a little bit difficult because we will be going over so many things, but again, we'll do whatever it is that you need.
Thank you.
Director Cook.
So far, all of the finance meetings or budget meetings that we've looked at, they're basically just have been a show and tell. And you've kind of just changed the heading from third to GRF to whatever. So they're about the same information all the time. And one of my questions is that we share all of these employees. And so is there a breakdown of how much of that employee is GRF, how much of it is third, how much of it, is something else? Because every time I would ask something, they'd say, oh no, that's third, that's not GRF, but it's the same employee. Example is the rodent guy. The state mandates now have increased and increased. And do we have a setup where we've actually placed a map of where we set all these rodent feeders? And I think we're going to have an increased problem with the new trash rules. And so we have one rodent guy, but does he have a map of where exactly every feeder is that has to be serviced on a timely manner by state mandate? And is that one employee going to be enough with what the increase is going to be? And if people don't have these feeders near their carports or their trash cans, do the members actually have to request it, or is there a process by which this rodent guy goes around and decides they need to be placed? Because I'm concerned we might need more than one specific rodent guy.
Well, let me address the first part of your question, to which I have more expertise on, and that's going to be as far as the allocation portion is concerned. How much do we budget, or how much do we charge United, or how much do we charge Third? And for landscape employees, we actually have an estimate of time for each individual work center, and we'll know that so many thousands of hours go to United, so many go to Third, and we'll take a direct percentage. And that's the way we'll allocate the cost on those. As far as a specific need for this particular program, I'm going to defer to the department head.
All right. Any other questions? If not, thank you very much. Appreciate the presentation.
Thank you.
Director Jarrett.
I'd like to mention about the road. This is the first year that we've had a rodent guy. They put it in the budget for this year. And they do have a map. And one of the things is that when we had we got the new organic bins, they put an extra bin in each and every 3-story building trash rooms, just so you know.
Put like a bin or an extra rodent box?
I'm sorry, it's the bait station.
Bait station.
The bait station in every 3-story building trash room. So I don't know about the rest of the community, but that's how they're handling that. Thank you.
Okay. All righty. We move now to the update on committee appointments. You have in your packet the update, and we have a, so I'll ask for a motion to approve the committee assignments.
So move.
Director McCary moves. Get a second.
I'll second.
Director Jarrett seconds. Any discussion? Director Laws.
Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you. There's, looks like 2 new committees in GRF. This is on page 6 of 6. Insurance Ad Hoc Committee and a Website Ad Hoc Committee. If possible, I would like to be on both of them.
Well, the Insurance Ad Hoc Committee is made up of the presidents of the different boards.
Okay.
That's how that Insurance Ad Hoc Committee was created. As for the Website Ad Hoc Committee, this is my understanding. If somebody understands it differently, please correct me. My understanding is this is a committee that actually has been in operation for a number of months. And what happened was that Bunny Carpenter, president of GRF, determined that the committee had never been formally established as an ad hoc committee, even though they had been meeting for a number of months. So she went and requested that the committee be formally established. Directors Jarrett and McCary had previously been invited to serve on that committee and have been serving for a number of months. If you're interested in that committee, I'm more than willing to list you as an alternate.
That would be fine. I mean, you're the one that makes the decision, so, I mean, if that's the best that
Well,
can be
this-
done,
you-
that's,
I mean, this is my understanding of what happened, and they've been on the committee for quite a number of months, and they were requested to be on the committee by the head of the committee.
is there a limit of only two third board members on this
Yes.
committee? Okay,
Yes, because it is we only get to appoint 2 people.
okay, all right. And then with regards to the insurance one, just in general, any committee that only has one person just seems to be, just puts all of the information and knowledge in one person, and I don't think, as a general rule, that's a good idea. So
Then you
that's
need to
just kind of
speak, you need to speak to Bunny Carpenter, because she's the one who created the Insurance Ad Hoc
Okay.
Committee.
Okay.
And created it of the presidents.
Okay,
That was not my doing.
I will send her a note. So,
So you want to be added as an alternate on the website?
sure,
Ad Hoc
please,
Committee?
please, yes.
I'll be happy to do that.
Thank you.
All right. With that addition of Mark Laws as an alternate to the Website Ad Hoc Committee, we have a motion on the floor to approve that with that addition. Any objections to that addition? Hearing none, then we'll consider them.
I'll vote no, just since I didn't get what I wanted, I'll vote no. Knowing it had nothing to do with you, but so no, thanks.
Okay. Hearing no other objections, I'll assume then that the committee assignments are approved unless I hear otherwise, with Mark Laws voting no. Otherwise, it's passed. Thank you. All right, committee reports. We now move to the report of the Finance Committee.
Okay, thank you very much. The Finance Committee last met on April the 5th, and so early in the month. Our meeting is always the first Tuesday of the month. Therefore, our reporting period is really through the end of February. And we begin just looking at our total income and revenue and what we wind up with at the end. And you can see that our net revenue, if we just look globally at income and expenses, is $2,194,000 in our favor, which is always a good thing to see. But please recall, this is early in the year, and we budget many things throughout and don't get the bills sometimes until later. So we like to see that surplus right now. As we move on to the next slide, we look at the operating statement. That's very important. These are the expenses we anticipate. And as you can see, the operating fund shows an operating surplus of $868,000 through that reporting period. It shows how much of our revenue went into operations and where the expenses were and the expenditures without depreciation. And if we move on to the very next one, we're looking at our income and expenses compared to budget. We just heard about the budget, and budget is very, very important. Budget's what we anticipate. You can't always tell what's going to happen. And in terms of our budget, you see that our assessment revenue was exactly as anticipated and equal to that budget of $6,902,000. Non-assessment revenue was slightly lower by $83,000 than we anticipated in the budget, for a total revenue of $7,166,000 against that budget, as we've already mentioned, $83,000 less. However, our expenses were definitely less than anticipated, and therefore we did wind up with a net revenue of $2,194,000, and the variance was in our favor of $1,235,000. This is what we like to see, but again, keep in mind, this is early in the year. Some bills have not necessarily arrived yet. As we move on, let's look at our financial report. This is one of my favorite slides because it really shows, if you see the bars that go off to the right, Those are the things that were favorable, that we wound up seeing much more positive than we anticipated. On the bottom, those two yellow bars going off to the left are those that were somewhat unfavorable, although as you can see very slightly. Outside services was favorable by $520,000. This would be exciting, except of course part of it is because we didn't get bills yet for some of those services, and we budget by the month throughout the year and have not yet received some of those bills. Insurance was favorable, primarily due to the insurance coming in a little lower than we had feared. I'm not going to say than expected. I'd rather say than we feared. And so that came in a little bit better, and at least as of the end of February, we were $278,000 in our favor. As we move on, employee compensation and related expenses to that, $271,000 better than anticipated. However, again, we have some open positions remaining. So we like to see that we have that extra money that we hadn't anticipated in the budget having, but we'd also like to have those positions filled, and everybody is working very hard on that. Utilities is very exciting, because the reason that we are $84,000 in our favor is because of water. The residents have really been responding. Third Mutual, our residential water bill has been, not the bill itself because the prices went up, but the consumption of water has been since August, every single month, less than the same month the previous year, and actually in many cases better than in the past 3 to 4 years. So thank you all. And I just had to say that because we are in a very dire water situation right now. So that was very, very nice to see. Our legal fees are favorable due to less demand for legal services and more efficient use of that service. As we move on, the two negatives were our investments, and actually that's a paper negative. We had anticipated a year ago, in planning the budget, that the interest rates would have gone up sooner, that we would have done better sooner, and they lagged a bit. However, our funds are now in Treasury bills, and they are earning 90 basis points, and we are anticipating you will see that deficit disappearing because, again, it's a paper loss, not an actual one. And we do not pay any fees for any of our investments to any investment firm, so that's very helpful as well. As we move on, this, again, one of my favorite. I always like pictorial things. It's so much easier to see things. Let's start at the very bottom. We're looking at our total non-assessment revenue. Assessment revenue is what we get from assessment fees, so it's very easy to see. We don't have to break that down. But our non-assessment revenue, start at the bottom at that very large orange wedge of the pie. It says resident maintenance fee. That, in fact, is actually chargeable services when we talk about the resident maintenance fee there. And that is the largest portion of our non-assessment revenues, 22% of it. Next to that, we see the lease processing fee, and then the laundry revenue, very, very close to each other. Permit fee, as we move up to the top of that circle, at 14% of our non-assessment revenue. Resale processing fee, 13%. So all of those are pretty equal. And then we go down to the smaller ones, the late fee revenue, the inspection fee, the golf cart miscellaneous, and the carport space rental fee. But it's kind of nice to just see how those non-assessment revenues break down and how they contribute to that total. As we move on to our total expense, other than what we've just looked at, you can see there is no question that employee compensation and expenses related to that are the largest portion of our expenses, and that's 42%. Insurance, not surprisingly, is a big chunk at 25%, utilities 15%, and then in much smaller degrees, outside services, the allocation to the mutuals, the materials and supplies, and the allocation to the mutuals meaning our cost to put into the whole, materials, supplies, repairs, etc. But again, it's just nice to see it broken down that way so you can get a better idea. As we move on, We looked at the operating fund. We also have non-operating fund expenses. And those non-operating funds, first of all, there's the replacement funds, very, very important, particularly in a community that is approximately 60 years old in terms of its facilities. So we always have to anticipate that we're going to have to do some replacement and repairs, et cetera, as time goes on. And you can see that our beginning balance of $19,069,000 compared to our current balance at the end of February, that is, of $20,223,000. There has been some growth. There's also been, although the Garden Villa Fund is quite small, there was growth there as well, from $104,000 to $115,000. The Disaster Fund also going back up as we are repaying that fund for the amount that was borrowed for the unexpected insurance expenses the previous year. And our unappropriated expenditures, that's really a contingency fund, if you will. The expenses we don't anticipate, but we always have to set a little bit aside. And that is sitting at almost even from what we had intended. And so you can see the total and how it breaks down. The next slide, as we move on, just shows all of that kind of graphically. But it shows you year by year, so starting at 2018 all the way through 2022, and you can see that as you look across those bars, the dark orange one is the replacement funds, and there's been steady growth there, which is exactly what we want to see. The disaster fund had shrunk a little bit last year as the money was borrowed for the insurance, unexpected insurance expense is being repaid, but also when the disaster fund was established. The disaster fund included earthquake insurance, which we now have as part of our insurance coverage. So we don't need it quite as large, but we certainly want to build that up as well. You never know what's going to happen. The unappropriated expenditures, the contingency fund, fairly steady all the way through the years. And the very, very tiny bar across the top, which is sort of a, I don't even know what you call that color. It's kind of an olive. But if you'll notice, if you look at the 2022 bar at the very top, you actually can see that a little bit of that bar now. So that means it's growing. It used to be so tiny we had to pretend we could see it. And so I'm delighted that this time we actually can see that bar and it's very visible. And we move on to the one I know you all are anxious to hear, which is our resale history. And again, we only have the records through the end of February for the Financial Committee's report. And we compare month as the same months. What is interesting, we had an incredibly, the blue bars are 2022, and we had a very robust January. That was really quite exciting. Things dropped off in February. I'm told the Super Bowl is responsible for some of that. And especially after 2 years of not being able to have very big sports events. And from all the folks I heard who spent the time watching it, maybe that was. But we expect that to go back up. What is important is that the value and the average resale price is doing very, very well. In 2020, our average resale price was a little over $442,000. 2021 dropped way down to $398,000, and this year, in just those 2 months, even with the slightly slower February, we are $30,000 plus higher than we were 2 years ago. So that's all very, very good to see. And with that, that concludes the Financial Committee, the Finance Committee report. Our next meeting will, as always, be the first Tuesday of the month at 1:30 here in the boardroom. And look forward to seeing all of you then.
Thank you very much. Next is the Architectural Controls and Standards Committee. I will share with you, the committee met twice since I last reported to you at our third board meeting last month. The reason for meeting twice is that the committee is committed to moving variance requests through the system as quickly as possible once manor alterations is able to make recommendations. We met on the 18th of March and again at our regularly monthly scheduled meeting on the 28th of March. A total of 6 variance requests were reviewed by the committee and decisions made. The committee will continue to meet as needed once a group of variance requests are ready for review. In case you're not aware, once the Architectural Controls and Standards Committee reviews and approves a variance request, it no longer needs to go to the full board for approval. That can save as much as 45 days in the process for homeowners in third. The next meeting of the Architectural Control and Standards Committee is April 25th at 9:30 here in the boardroom and also virtually. Next up, Communications Committee, Director McCary.
Thank you, President Muchnick. The Communications Committee has not met since our first meeting in January, but our next meeting is going to be July 13th, 2022 at 1:30 p.m. here in the Community Center in the Willow Room.
Thank you. Next up, Director Engdahl.
Yes, Ralph sincerely apologizes. His wife had some minor surgery and he had to take her in today. Gate 11, groundwater seepage mitigation was one of the major items we discussed, and there will be a contract discussion and a vote at the closed meeting this afternoon. There was a discussion of the upgrading the electrical system at cul-de-sac 317. It's a pilot study. Termite inspections was discussed, and there was also a pressure regulation at the supply mains and a cost estimate for sensor control and augment lighting at 3-story buildings, and that's the next meeting will be May 2nd.
All right, thank you very much. Director Bada, Parking and Dog Park Subcommittee.
Thank you, President Muchnick. Our parking and golf cart meeting was on March 23rd, 2022. Many items were discussed. The most notable ones were an RFP for the golf cart parking, RFP for electrical engineering services for cul-de-sac 317 was discussed. It was approved and it's being now sent to Finance and M&C and finally come to the board for approval. Additional golf cart parking at 4013 Calle Sonora Oste, cul-de-sac 406. And then we also discussed additional golf cart car parking at 3299 Via Carrizo, cul-de-sac 326. Our next meeting is on May 25th at 1:30 p.m. Our future meetings will be every other month on the 4th Wednesday of the month.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Next up, Gardnerville Rec Room Subcommittee, Director Jarrett.
Yeah, we last met on March the 10th, and I gave the report last month. But I want to mention that we already started working on that budget. We have a small budget. It's around $73,000. But after talking to the officer in maintenance, inflation really hurts when you buy equipment and that's all it is. That budget is nothing to do with staff or anything. It's all items that have to be bought, and inflation hurts. So we're going to be talking about that in the next meeting, May the 12th. We're going to firm up what we want to have in the budget for next year. The meeting will be May 12th. Next meeting will be May the 12th at 10 a.m. in the boardroom. Thank you. It'll be May 12th in the boardroom.
Next up, report of the Landscape Committee, also Director Jarrett.
Okay, we last met on April the 7th. Kurt Wyman, the VMS Landscape Director, reported that we are now in the bi-weekly mowing cycle and will return to the weekly schedule in June. He reported that a slope repair is in the works on Calle Azul. A geotechnical engineer has been hired to prepare a repair plan, and the plan, if all goes well, will be completed by the end of June. The work will be completed then. He reviewed the project log with the committee and answered some questions, and he stated that many shrubs would be trimmed at homes in the fire zone as requested by the fire authority. So you can talk about primarily Gate 11 and along Bahia Blanca, along their preserve. Two tree removal requests were denied by the committee. And it was reported that a garden complete with stones was installed behind one of the three-story buildings at Gate 14, which is totally not allowed. In Gate 14, we have all potable water, and the person was using hoses out there to bring more water out there to the little garden that was created. And when we talked to this person that was really in charge of creating that garden, she said there were other gardens in Gate 14 behind the three-story buildings, and we were discriminating. So we let her know we don't discriminate it, and what we did told the committee requested, and Mr. Wyman agreed that all Gate 14 three-story buildings be checked in the Greenbelt area for illegal gardens and stonework. And that's going to be 17 buildings in the Greenbelt will be checked, because I do know there's other activity going on back there behind some of those buildings. It seems that when new residents move in, they either don't read the requirements or choose to ignore them, that the common area around these buildings are not to be taken over by just any resident to create their own personal gardens, whether for flowers or fruits and vegetables, which was really not allowed anyway. We need to acknowledge that common area is just that, common area available for use by all the residents, but not to create gardens and put any flowers out there you want to. Director Wyman stated that the crews are not to take directions from residents. This happens quite often. Foreman will soon be dressed in green striped shirts with a yellow vest. The resident may ask the foreman questions, not the workers. And besides, many of the workers don't even speak the language. The next meeting will be held on Thursday, May the 5th at 9:30 a.m. And we're going to have a little treat, because our head tree arborist will be there to make a presentation on trees. I have already seen this PowerPoint presentation, and it is not only interesting, but it's quite educational. You'll see how and why he makes decisions on requests coming from the residents and much, much more. Again, that's May the 5th at 9:30 a.m. Thank you.
Next up is report of the Water Conservation Committee, Director Rayne Sosak.
Yeah, you already heard the good news that residential water use has been down. The Water Conservation Committee last met in February. At the end of February, we only meet typically quarterly, but February was a delayed January meeting. Since that time, the El Toro Water District Board of Directors met and has declared at the end of March a level 2 water conservation concern. So at our next meeting, we hope many of you will tune in as we relate some of the changes that will be in place. Most important being a 10 to 20% reduction in water use. We've already responded somewhat on the residential side, and it's very exciting. And we have that new irrigation system coming in depending upon when it gets installed and how much at one time, that will help reduce water there. But it's quite a serious issue. So I urge everybody, please listen in to that water conservation meeting. It is going to be on April 28th, and there is a correction. It shows that it is in the Sycamore Room. It is not. It will be entirely virtual. The Sycamore Room was the only room available, and we have people coming to the meeting, which we're delighted to have. And that's just not a good location for it. We want as many people to be able to see it as possible. And so it will be a virtual meeting on April 28th at 2 p.m. And thank you.
And the last committee report from the Third Mutual, before we get on to the GRF committee highlights, is the Resident Rules and Policy Committee. This committee last met March 2nd, so a full report was provided at our March 3rd board meeting. The next meeting of the Resident Rules and Policy Committee is scheduled for this coming Monday, April 25th at 9:30 here in the boardroom. We'll now move to GRF committee highlights, and we'll go to Director McCary for the Community Activities Committee, please.
Thank you, President Muchnick. The Community Activities Committee met on April 14th here in the boardroom. Some of the highlights of that committee. For Brian Gruner, he reported on operations, and he stated that staffing and recruitment constraints continue to challenge the Recreation Department opportunities to expand operations. He continues to make progress as we have hired several full-time team members, still in need of a full-time PAC coordinator and 23 part-time recreation leaders. He also reported that certain clubs, such as the PC Club and the MAC Club, will submit items for the fiscal year budget year. The Garden Center Volunteer Program was instituted, and they have been conducting training and scheduling volunteers to be in the Garden Center. And also, they are finalizing camera installations at both garden centers. Clubhouse 2, in terms of that, has been apparently a loud sewer smell. It has been identified and will soon undergo repairs. The fitness center is coordinating village games, which has about 375 participants so far. And in terms of Clubhouse 6, the volunteer program and the reopening of Clubhouse 6 started last week, Monday, coordinating with clubs to schedule and utilize the space. Let's see. In terms of the PAC Center, renovation continues in the billiard room, the kitchen, and the rehearsal room. There was also some discussion with some operating rules in terms of the Tennis Center and the Garden Center. There was much discussion and feedback from members of each one of these organizations, so the committee decided to send these operating rules back to committee so that input can be received from these clubs. They wanted more input into the operating rules, so the operating rules were sent back, and once there's been input from the clubs, then the operating rules will come back to committee for approval. The next Community Activities Committee will be May 12th. At 1 p.m. here in the boardroom.
Thank you very much, Director McCary. Next up, Director Bada, Equestrian Center Ad Hoc Committee, please.
Thank you. So the phase 2 of the Help the Herd Village Community fundraising is being proposed. And the focus this time will be on installation of shade structure for the remaining turnouts, replacement of small pen, and raise funds for additional veterinary care for the GRF herd. Equestrian Center events for 2022 was discussed. The main thing, some of the ones that were considered was the Easter egg hunt, which was last weekend. The Village Renaissance Fair will be hosted on May 21st. The Equestrian Center will host a horse show in June, and a hoedown will be hosted in the fall. The details to follow, so please look out for them. A working actuation and dressage clinic is planned for May 7th and 8th, hosting a trainer from Portugal. This is going to be an interesting item for some of our enthusiasts, so please attend. A current statewide horse quarantine is about to be lifted, which allows outside agencies to rent the arena. The Equestrian Center may host 4 clinics this summer. The date of the next meeting will be May 25th, 2022 at 1 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, Director Rayne Sosak, GRF Finance Committee.
Yes, thank you. The GRF Finance Committee last met on February 16th. At that time, the primary focus of that meeting was the audit that was ongoing and has been concluded successfully. The next meeting is actually tomorrow afternoon at 1:30 right here in the boardroom. And that's the report.
Thank you. Director Jarrett, GRF Landscaping Committee.
We last met in March 9th, and I gave, anyway, the next meeting will be June 8th at 1:30 PM in the boardroom and as a virtual meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, we have a member comment on item 15C,
On item 15,
the one that Director Jarrett just read.
okay, sure.
Yvonne Horton.
Hello.
Thank you, directors. Yvonne Horton, 5475B. Thank you, Director Jarrett, for coming out personally and looking at the slope at on cul-de-sac 375. However, the men are out there working now. And if you remember at your landscape meeting, Third's landscape meeting, I mentioned about using pre-emergence. And I was told that they're too expensive, that we have discontinued the use. Well, I only got a minute and a half now. Anyway, I think we're making a mistake because the guys are just out there, they're cutting down the weeds and raking them up. Now you're going to put water on it, another month, they're going to be up again. And I'm going to be back here complaining about the weeds on the slope. I don't know what happened because the street below me and the street above me, they are virtually without weeds. But my street, it's overwhelming how many weeds are up there. They've been working on it for 2 days just to cut the weeds back. So I'm recommending that at least on my street that we start using a pre-emergent to kill those weed seeds. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, GRF Maintenance and Construction Committee, I guess Director Franco, are you going to stand in for Director Engdahl again?
The last meeting was held on April 13th. The major discussion was a discussion of the benches. It seems, of the bus benches, it seems that walkers are, the existing bus benches partially take up the sidewalks. And that's a problem with the walkers. So we're going to put in 38 new green benches. Will replace the older ones. They will go in the same manner that the existing green benches are. The existing green benches have armrests. The proposal to come up with a new bench without an armrest was unacceptable because the armrests are important. A lot of the walkers rest at the green benches. So we cannot block the sidewalks. So they will be put on a slab behind the sidewalks. And the benches that we will be replacing will be those the old dog's white benches, and they are deteriorating. The plan for a revised call center was presented, and we're going to remodel that. Hay storage was an issue for the Equestrian Center, and to protect the weather right now, it's just a shelter, it's just a metal shelter with no sides, and they have to find some way to protect that hay. And there were other items discussed: shepherd's cook, welding, the welding shop, and Performing Arts Center revision status, and the energy management system. The next meeting is June 8th.
Okay, thank you. You also filling in for Director Engdahl on the Clubhouse Facilities Renovation Ad Hoc Committee?
There's no report.
Okey doke, thank you. We'll now move to the Media and Communications Committee. Director McCary.
Thank you, President Majinik. The Media and Communications Committee actually met yesterday here in the boardroom, and first item of discussion happened to be the latest April and May edition of the Village Breeze. There's a lot of really good information in the Breeze, and of highlights in the Third Mutual section, there's a really good article written by directors, specifically the one about publicly available property insurance premium. Director Munchnick wrote a really informative article, also with some links to any of the past meeting in terms of our financial statements and where they can be available. So that is one article that was written. There's another article about the garden villas, and there's a really, really nice keepable page here about the monthly assessments that can be just something to have at least until the 2022 budget is out. Just basically how our assessments are spent, and so that's a good one. So we talked about the Village Breeze. In addition to that, Eileen Pollan talked about some of the ongoing support that media and communication does to keep the community going, a whole list of support that they provide for this day, for TV6. Let's see, just a lot of information that was discussed about the communications department. In addition to that, let's see, there was some media and communication also supported the information meetings on transportation. It was also reported that new resident orientations for third is ongoing, and these are in person now. And so residents are signing up for the new resident orientation. The docent tours are up and running also again, and there's some really good prospects for volunteers for the docent tours. Let's see here. There's also, we talked about the new, it's not new, but we referred people back to the program by Debbie Dotson, which is titled Let's Talk Tech, and she goes through some of the technical problems that people might have, and that's on, it runs twice a week, so really good information about technology. It was also reported in terms of broadband, the subscriber report is up 22%, and so people are really subscribing to the broadband. A lot of people are doing a lot more streaming now as well. Let's see, the internet subscriber, people are continuing to convert to more higher speed internet, so they thought that was a really good idea. The internet subscriber rate is over 11,000 for the community. The prices have not increased for internet since 2015. And I believe the last thing I wanted to talk about was there's a new show. It's called Did You Know? And it just premiered in April of this month, where it will be, I have it right here. Sorry about that. Oh, go ahead. Yeah. So it's going to be coming up this month, and it's going to be about interviewing residents in Laguna Woods Village and their unique life experiences. Again, it premiered this month in April, but it will be an ongoing program on TV6. So, and that's the end of my report. The next Media and Communications Committee meeting will be May 16th at 1:30 p.m. here in the boardroom. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Director Bada and Mobility and Vehicles Committee.
Again?
Mobility
and Vehicles Committee was held on April 6, 2022. One of the very important things that was mentioned over there, that the Age Well meeting, update meeting, will be held on May 4th at 1 p.m. in Clubhouse 1. Strongly recommend that all the people who use our bus service should try to attend and listen to all the updates that they're giving us. Besides that, there was nothing new discussed in this meeting except that our new director, Robert Carroll, gave us details on the routes and ridership data and trends. Overall, the numbers are creeping up post-pandemic, looking better. Everything's looking better. There are more riders. Slowly but surely, things are coming back to normal. Also, another item discussed was the old vehicles are being sent to the auction house instead of the junkyard, which gives us some return on our investment. New vehicles are approved under the capital program that have been ordered and are taking time to arrive due to the overall shortage of vehicles. Our next meeting is on June 1st, 2022 at 1:30 p.m. in the boardroom.
Thank you very much. Next up, Director Wayne on Security and Community Access Committee.
Thank you, President. The Security and Community Access Committee last met on February 28th, and the next meeting will be on April 25th. However, in the interim, there are two new developments. The parking permit issue for Gate 14 is now in the hands of GRF, and GRF has agreed and voted unanimously to implement that program. So for people wanting to park on the street, Calle Sonora, by Gate 14, they will now require a parking permit. The parking permit will be $97.50 per year, and the revenue that they expect to generate from that will be $6,500 annually. So it is now on the 26-day notification requirement. So that's a positive development. Also, Rojas has informed me that there's a research project to change our stop signs, 30 of them at least. And that project will put lights on the stop signs so that the stop signs will be more obvious to people when they're coming there. He hopes that that will then help in people not running the stop signs. That's all I have to report.
Thank you. I just want to make one clarification in terms of your report. The area that is for parking that they're going to have parking permits is outside the gate.
Yes.
Not
from
inside Gate 14. From the gate down to El Toro.
Exactly.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that our residents weren't concerned that they now might have to have a parking permit inside Gate 14.
Do you think we could get away with that?
Okay, thank you. Next up is Director Rayne Sosak and Disaster Preparedness Task Force.
Yes, and the Disaster Preparedness Task Force met March 29th. One of the primary emphasis that we had during that meeting was encouraging people to volunteer. We do have, thank you, I was just about to ask for that to come up. And this was a handout that was given to everybody at the meeting, and we are hoping to have more people volunteering as good neighbor captains should we have an emergency or any other reason to communicate with their neighbors. It's time to build that program back up again. And you can see on the list here, there are many, many things that are available as opportunities. And I think it's important that you all know the Disaster Preparedness Office is right here on the first floor of the community center. And now that things are a little more open, stop by. And we would love to have more people volunteering to be good neighbor captains. We need them, and there will be training as well for them. The next meeting will be May 31st at 9:30.
Thank you very much. Next up is Director Franco and report on Laguna Woods Village traffic hearings.
The last meeting was March 16th, and there were 3 violations, 2 of which were stop sign violations, and both the violators were found guilty. There was a valid driver's license failed to be produced, and they're guilty and no fine. The next meeting is tomorrow. There are 4 violators, 2 parking violations, a stop sign violation, and a valid driver's license not produced. And that's the
Thank you.
end of my report.
Thank you. GRF Strategic Planning Committee last met on March 7th. The next meeting is May 2nd at 9:30 in the boardroom and also as a virtual meeting. Next up, Director Laws, Information Technology Advisory Committee.
Yes, the Information Technology Advisory Committee, otherwise known as ITAC, tends to meet every Friday, although they haven't met since April 1st. As you may recall, in February, all the boards voted to approve a new ERP system, and the GRF and Avantico, which is the consulting firm that is going to be doing that, are still working out all of the details. So the contract has yet to be signed, and it's gone 3 rounds so far, so hopefully it'll be signed soon so work can get started. And we'll see when the next meeting is. We may not meet this Friday if the contract has not yet been signed. Thanks.
Thank you. And last but not least, the Website Ad Hoc Committee, Director McCary.
Thank you, President Muchnick. The website Ad Hoc Committee had one meeting on March 9th, and we talked about the mission statement and purpose, just some general discussion, because the committee had not been formally approved by GRF. So we sent the mission statement and some information to the GRF committee, and they have formally approved the committee. So the next meeting is to be announced.
Thank you. We now move to future agenda items. Folks, Director Laws.
Sorry, Insurance Ad Hoc Committee, is there, that's not on the list, but that was a new committee on the committee's list. Is there anything that you might want to report?
The Insurance Ad Hoc Committee, the only thing I'll say to you is that the Insurance Ad Hoc Committee met once, and what they're looking at is trying to think outside the box. I'm not sure exactly what that means in terms of insurance issues. It's really kind of nebulous at this moment in time. There's not a lot to report.
Great, thanks.
All right, future agenda items. All right, director's comments. We'll start on my far left with Director Lewis.
No comment today. Thank you.
Director Laws.
One question. In the beginning of the year, there was some discussion about having some meeting with all the boards to talk about the new laws for 2022 that might impact HOAs. Did I miss that meeting, or has it not been held yet? Or was
Director Foster.
Is there such a meeting planned?
CEO Foster.
I wasn't aware that there was a meeting planned. I know each of the attorneys generally covers that information at their own closed sessions.
Okay.
There was a discussion at one point, Director Laws is correct, there was a discussion at one point about having it as a single joint board meeting so that we would have one attorney present rather than have 3 separate presentations. So Director Laws is correct. That was part of the discussion. So it probably would make sense to find out if that's still something.
Absolutely.
viable.
Perhaps that predated my.
It did.
Yeah,
It did
thank you.
predate yours.
I'll check on it. Thank you.
Right. Okay.
That was all.
Director Cook.
No.
Director Franco.
No comment, thank you.
Director Wayne.
No further comments, thank you.
Director McCary.
Thank you. I did have one comment, and it's too bad that Jules left. I just wanted to thank him for putting in a plug for voter apathy and for people not voting. So thank you, Jules, for that reminder that people really do need to vote, especially if we take on whatever is going on in the community. When we reach out, we have had such a low voter turnout. So I just wanted to thank Jules for plugging in for people to vote. Thank you.
Director Jarrett.
No comment, thank you.
Director Rayne Sosak.
No comment other than to second Director McCary's comment on thanking Jules for reminding people how important it is to vote wherever your choice is.
Director Bada.
No real comment, thank you.
Okay. CEO Foster.
Nothing, thank you.
Mrs. Stratas, Corporate Secretary.
No, thank you.
Ms. Michaela.
No comment.
All right, thank you very much. At this point, it is about approximately 11:25, and we will recess and reconvene for an executive session. Thank you.
What time are we meeting for closed session?